back to RGR Football. You guys ready for Sunday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills? Ryan's not probably going to be with us tonight. We'll see if he ends up making it to the stream, but I wanted to make sure you guys got a game plan video because this really is, for all intents and purposes, the AFC Championship game. We saw it last year, and I'm excited to see how this game turns out. So let's go ahead and get right to it, yeah? This is RGR Football. Hey everybody, how's it going? If you didn't know, my name is Daniel Harms. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is where we talk about everything Kansas City Chiefs. This is the RGR Football channel. And I do a lot of film breakdowns here, but this is tonight. It's all going to be about the game plan. What do we expect to see from Kansas City? What do we expect to see from Buffalo? We got a little bit of word today that Steve Spagnuolo has a little bit of something in the bag for Josh Allen, something I'm excited to see myself. It's definitely going to be something to watch on Sunday. This is going to be probably the most anticipated game of the weekend. The two best teams in a lot of people's eyes, in my eyes personally, get to square off, and I'm totally excited to see the fireworks. I want to see what Spags brings to the table. I want to see the different kinds of exotic blitzes that we're going to see. I want to see Willie Gay out there. Yes, we did get confirmation today from Andy Reid that Willie Gay will be playing on Sunday. The biggest news really of this whole week was his arrest. You guys saw the video Ryan did. If you didn't, you go check that out to really give you all the information you need about what happened with Willie Gay. But the good news is that he will play. Hopefully he gets whatever help he needs in the meantime after all this goes away, whatever happens in that situation. Hopefully he gets everything he needs. But let's go ahead and just kind of reintroduce ourselves off the top. We already got lots of people in here already, about 49, 50 people, you guys, on a Friday. That's awesome. I know that we all have things that we do every single week on Fridays, and it's not always the most exciting to come here and listen to some people talk about football, but I appreciate you all in here tonight. If you guys feel the need, you can always super chat. That's appreciated. Definitely isn't a requirement. So again, we appreciate everything you guys do for us. Just being here, talking with me on a Friday night, it's awesome. But the thing I want to talk about first, the biggest thing for me is that this is a completely different Chiefs team than Buffalo saw in week 5. And I know that the Bills are to an extent the same, okay? I think that when I say the same, I mean that they're different in some aspects as well. And what I mean by that is Buffalo has really found a rushing attack, okay? They have done a very good job of going to more 12 personnel and bringing more 21 personnel and finding ways to run the ball. They finally established Devin Singletary as the guy, using Josh Allen, definitely more of a runner himself, the way that he's unique in the way that, not in the same way that Lamar Jackson's unique. He's unique in a way that a freight train runs over anything in its path. He's just so athletic and gifted for a guy his size to be able to run the football the way he does. I have a lot of respect for what he brings as a runner. We all know that he's matured a ton as a passer in the NFL. He's still not at Patrick Mahomes' level. So how can the Chiefs really take control of that? Okay. The biggest thing for me is it's not been talked about a lot. It's actually kind of been the reverse. I've listened to a couple different podcasts and some national shows this week, and they're talking about how they don't expect Kansas City to blitz a lot, which I completely disagree with it. If you guys remember last year, I know that it wasn't like a ton of blitzes. It was just the way that Spags went about it. For example, I think that Josh Allen is right now, he's not a guy who can sit in the pocket and get to his next read and then, he's able to get the ball out where he needs to go. I think that when it's not there, when he has to start going to a second and third, and then when he's pressured at the same time, that's when he can actually get antsy. That's where his eyes don't always tell him exactly where he needs to go. I think we've seen Mahomes mature in that respect, this year. And it's been a huge part about how he's grown with this whole cover 2, these 2 high shells that we've seen. He's done a great job, a phenomenal job, really, of adjusting to what he's seeing and actually going through his reads. You guys saw against the Steelers, the distribution that he had. A bunch of receivers, like 4 or 5 or 6 receivers on the Chiefs had 7 to 4 targets. No one had more than 7 targets. That's huge, okay? That's huge for the growth of this team. It's huge for the growth of Mahomes and the trust factor that Mahomes had with everybody else. So the very first point, like I said, that I wanted to talk about was this team different than they saw in week 5. The offense now finally clicking. I think we're seeing, like I said, Mahomes, the offense. I think that McKinnon gives a little bit more juice to the running back room. I do think that now Clyde is active. He's healthy. We expect him to play on Sunday. I do think he's going to get, more touches than you would probably expect because he is their number one back. I do think it's going to be him and McKinnon as the 1-2 punch. I think that's a really perfect blend of skill sets, and that's ideally what you want to see. You want to see a guy who can pound the rock in between the tackles and grind out some yards, something that McKinnon didn't have to do on Sunday against the Steelers. He was able to find a lot of room. You give that room to Clyde too, I think they're going to find ways to run the ball. So again, I appreciate y'all joining me tonight. They've got us a couple super chats here, and we'll keep going with the breakdown. Thank you very much, Jayden. I appreciate you being in here all the time. So you got the Chiefs winning 37-27. Are people giving the Bills a little too much credit? They only beat 2 teams above 500, Patriots and the Chiefs. You're not wrong in that, but I do think that my personal belief is this Bills team was built to beat the Kansas City Chiefs because of the way that the defense does not necessarily have the top 10 potential that you see a lot of other places. They want to be able to combat what the Chiefs do offensively with an elite safety duo and basically just good coaching. They're not going to blitz a ton, but they're going to be sound in what they do defensively. So, and then you have the offensive side of the ball, which can really just chunk play you to death like the Chiefs have been able to do in the past. But I think that we're going to see a little bit of a different element from Spags on Sunday. You're going to see some of those 2 high shells, but he's going to bring some pressure at times too. So like I said, I'm excited to see what he does there, and I think it's going to be a very exciting game. We'll get to my score predictions at the end. But again, thank you very much for your support, Jayden. And one more here from Chad. Thank you very much, Chad. You're always so supportive. Appreciate your conversations on Twitter as well. Thank you. Good evening, Dan. Hope all is well, and thanks for doing this. Yeah, no problem, guys. I wanted to make sure that we brought this back for the playoffs because this is really the prime time for when we can do these. They don't do so well during the week, mostly because we all kind of talk about it throughout the week and then that kind of thing. As much as this is going to be answering some questions, it's not going to be a total Q&A for everybody. So I know that we're going to have some questions. I'm going to get through most of my notes here, and maybe at the end we'll get through some of these questions. I don't want to keep you all too late, so we'll probably go about half an hour, 35 minutes or so, and we'll keep on going. So thank you very much, Chad, for your support, and everybody else here. Really do appreciate it. Then the next thing that I want to talk about is something I already mentioned a little bit. It's Josh Allen's legs. And that, for me, is going to be the difference in this game. If the Chiefs can limit some of what he does as a runner, if they can keep him in the pocket, not allow him to always extend plays, keep him guessing. We saw on Sunday against the Steelers with TJ Watt, once Mahomes figured out his rush patterns, his rushing paths, what he did to counter some of the chips the Chiefs sent at him, he was able to get outside the pocket, step up in the pocket based on what TJ Watt was doing. And that really allowed him to change the dynamic of the football game, to get the ball down the field and really stretch some of these plays. That throw to Demarcus Robinson at the sideline was because they sent a chip at TJ Watt. And when he comes inside, Mahomes loops back around and hits Demarcus Robinson for that big play, that corner route there. So it's really awesome to see how he's able to evolve his mind during the game. That first quarter was atrocious from the Chiefs, but they finally figured everything out and they got it going. This offensive line for the Buffalo Bills, I think, can be attacked. It's a good offensive line. It's not great. I think you can blitz enough, and we've seen throughout the course of the year the ability to blitz Josh Allen. It's there. If you can frustrate him and get him off that first and second read while keeping him in the pocket. Contained this week is going to be super important. You're going to have Melvin Ingram and Frank Clark do their jobs in making sure he doesn't get out. Combine that with interior pressure from Chris Jones, Jaron Reed, whoever they're going to send on the blitz packages. That's how you're going to be able to get him in the ground. Tackling, super important against Josh Allen. He's such a big physical guy. He makes guys miss. He breaks tackles. But like I tweeted out earlier this week, a very surprising thing, the Chiefs are actually one of the best defenses in the NFL in terms of not missing their tackles. So that's very, very interesting. When we saw the first 5 weeks of the season, the Chiefs defense didn't really do that. So very big. The biggest key for me in this game is keeping Josh Allen as close as you can in the pocket and not letting him get outside, make plays, make those second reaction throws like we see Mahomes do all the time. So they have a pretty good idea of what that looks like, considering they played Lamar Jackson this year, Josh Allen, they play Mahomes in practice. So I'm interested to see how that works out. Excuse me. And like I said, the blitzing is going to be something from Spags that I'm very interested to see. I'm very excited to see all of that. The next thing I really want to talk about is Josh Allen is gotten so much better with his downfield accuracy. Okay. This is going to be an opportunity for the Chiefs, in my opinion, their secondary, with even without Rashad Fenton, to step up and show that they have just as much of an elite safety duo as the Bills do. I think really Tyrann Mathieu being a robber in this game is going to be paramount to him not being as effective. We've seen Josh Allen have these huge blow up games. Okay. I looked through the stats. He's got some extreme blow up games. Typically, those don't follow with great efforts going after that. And whether that's because it's really hard to replicate that process. I've read somewhere that this Bills offense against the Patriots was the greatest offensive performance ever recorded. Excuse me. And that in and of itself should tell you that there should be some drawback to that. If you have that big of a performance in the first round of the postseason, you shouldn't be able to really replicate that going forward. If they do, that's going to be one of the more impressive things. Okay, being able to replicate that kind of effort and that kind of offensive firepower is going to be hard to beat. But we just saw the Chiefs do almost the same kind of thing. So having this dynamic offense playing each other in a game like this, that's not the actual AFC Championship, might set a team like the Buffalo Bills up for a little bit of a disappointment, because it's not the pinnacle of what you're looking for. They wanted to play the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. They're not going to get that. This is going to be a different stage. And I think because the Chiefs have that experience, that going into not just the divisional games, but the back-to-back-to-back AFC Championship games, back-to-back Super Bowls, that's what gives them the edge in this game, while not having to try to overlook it getting to the AFC Championship. You have this divisional game in front of you, and the Buffalo Bills beat you this season already, okay, at home. That's something that's going to be very fresh in the Chiefs' mind, so I'm excited to see that. And this, like I said, this new run game from the Bills it's impressive. Their ability to actually run the ball. But I think that just as much as it's impressive for them, the Chiefs' own offense can actually do some things running the ball that the Bills don't have. They're not prepared for. Okay. I wouldn't call them a finesse offensive line, but they're almost like the Chiefs offense was a couple years ago, where it's trending in that direction. They're built more for pass protection. And I do think that the way that you can really attack this Bills offensive line is getting in there with some of these run blitzes we've seen Willie Gay dial up and things like that. But my original point being the Chiefs run game, okay? Their defensive line is good. They're a rotational defensive line. You know, they love to have that rotation to keep everybody fresh and things like that. The one area that I think the Chiefs can take advantage of is the power run game. We've seen the Patriots bully that defensive line multiple times, and I know that it didn't happen against them the last two times they played, but the Patriots don't have a passing offense. Mac Jones is not good. Like, he's just not a very good quarterback, and he's a rookie. That's fine. Maybe he'll get there at some point, but he's not a threat to really attack all levels of the field like Patrick Mahomes is. This is going to be a huge opportunity for the Chiefs offensive line to continue to find success. You guys saw those giant holes that Jerick McKinnon had. He could basically sit there for a few seconds and figure out where he was going. He had so much room to work with. That's going to be such a big part of this game, is grinding out more first downs. The Chiefs are the most, how do I want to phrase this? The least amount of 3 and outs on offense in the NFL, I think, is the Kansas City Chiefs. They can replicate that. They can continue to do that. And that's how they're going to do that. They're going to run the ball effectively, and they're going to be able to chunk the ball down the field. Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman are going to be two very important factors in the game, in my opinion. The speed after the catch. Mecole Hardman was, I think, 9th in the NFL in yards after the catch this year. That's a pretty important stat, honestly, going forward. These last couple of weeks, he's been a very important factor for the Chiefs on offense, getting the ball in his hands. Maybe not always as a Wildcat quarterback. I don't have an issue with it all the time, but if you're struggling as an offense, maybe not take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. If you're already going, like, okay, I have a little fake here, have him be the Wildcat. That's not a big deal. But this is going to be a very important game, and we all know that. This is playoffs now. And I mentioned, Hardman a little bit, but the spreading the ball around, very important. Again, Patrick Mahomes has done a great job of adjusting to defenses. We saw what the Bills plan to do in defense. They're going to sit back in their zones. They're not going to blitz. There's not much else they can do differently that the Chiefs haven't seen this year. So there shouldn't be any surprises, and Patrick Mahomes and the offense should really be ready for that. You're going to see the ball get into the flats pretty quickly. As soon as you see off coverage, I think Mahomes does a good job of checking into those quick throws to the receivers on the outside, and with Tyreek Hill, even Byron Pringle and McCole Harbin to an extent can all get you chunk yardage after the catch there. That's going to be very important. And I think that a hinge player in this game is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. A lot of people don't want that to happen, but I think that he's going to get more touches than you think. If he has a good game, if Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back, has a good game, much like he did, maybe not much like he did against the Bills last year, but if he can actually produce better than we've seen this year and have a good 1-2 punch with Jerick McKinnon, that's going to give them everything they need, in my opinion, to win this game. I guess it's going to be close. I don't know exactly how it's going to go down. You guys are going to find out my prediction later, but one of the big emergences this year from the Buffalo Bills has been Dawson Knox. He's been an incredible tight end this year, and like I didn't expect him to have such a big breakout season, but he's scoring a lot of touchdowns. Tyrann Mathieu is going to have a very big game against Dawson Knox because really, if they get him going, then you really condense the middle of the field, and then you allow the receivers on the outside a little more leeway. We saw Joe Burrow be able to get the ball to the outside because the Chiefs basically said one-on-one on the outside, you do what you got to do. Those accurate throws to the outside, I think, can be the Chiefs' downfall on defense. And if you allow Dawson Knox to run the middle of the field or get loose like he did against the Chiefs in the first week, things are going to be there's going to be a very long night for the Chiefs defense. So I do think that Tyrann Mathieu is a very important role to play in this game, and that's playing that robber, and that's getting Dawson Knox shut down on a lot of these chunk plays down the middle of the field. They can create some of those, create a turnover here and there. In the first game, the Chiefs were the ones that did the turnovers, okay? So they have to be able to come out, not turn the ball over, protect it, and maybe manufacture a way that Josh Allen can have one of those. He did just turn the ball over 3 times against the Atlanta Falcons, okay? The Falcons. I know that was a different time, a different game, but I think that this is it's in his DNA a little bit. Patrick has had that this year, just random fumbles, random interceptions just come out of nowhere. That can happen to Josh Allen from time to time, but this game is going to be so much fun. I hope you guys are looking forward to it as much as I am. I love talking about it, and I think right now we'll take some questions and kind of get some things going before I get into my last point and then my prediction for the game. I'll run right up here. Again, over 100 people in the chat here. I appreciate you guys being here on this Friday night. Thank you for the question, Philip. Do you think they should put Tyreek Hill on punt return against Buffalo if they want to do it? I would say no. I don't think you need to risk Tyreek Hill in that regard to have him as a punt returner. You see him out there every once in a while just to kind of psych out the punter a little bit to make him maybe make a mistake. But if you want to do that, okay. But if you expect him to return it, I would prefer it to be Mike Hughes or McCole Hardman at this point. I appreciate the question, Phil. Thank you, Dan Thompson. Reverend Harms. I mean, I'm probably not at that extent, but I appreciate the respect. Do you think Andy is going to have some tricks up his sleeve for screens to Hardman? Yeah, Hardman. I think you're going to see some interesting screens. I also think you're going to see Michael Burton get involved a little bit because we've seen that from time to time. And I think you can really get a defense off its haunches when you fake the ball one area, like we see the Chiefs do a lot, go one way or the other, and then come back with a different screen. So I think that you're going to see a lot of different looks on offense, things that the Bills haven't seen this at all this year from the Chiefs offense. Excuse me. Appreciate you, Radio. If the Chiefs can get up early by like 2 scores, I can see the Bills panicking and pressing. I don't necessarily think that they're going to do that this year. I think Buffalo has a lot of experience they gained from last year in that same situation where actually they were the ones that came out early and we're up 9-0. Had some mistakes from Cole Hardman on that punt. You guys know we were there. And then the Chiefs decided to run off a bunch of points. I think they understand now not to get complacent and to just run the score up. So if if the Chiefs get up by by 2 scores early, the game is not going to be over. It's not going to be out of reach. I don't think that he's going to panic. He's going to pressure. I think that he's much more cool under pressure this year than he was last year. It's a big game. He knows as much as it is that Patrick has dealt with it to this point in his career with the pressure of these big time games. I think Josh Allen is starting to understand that a little bit, and that's what's made him even more dangerous than he has been in the past. I appreciate you for the super chat again, Jaden. Who will be another X factor for this game in Kansas City? I think it's you really have a couple of different guys, but Willie Gay, now that he's playing, is a huge X factor for me. Him and Nick Bolton to an extent. I think those two guys, young linebackers that can get downhill. I think you might see Nick Bolton blitz a little bit more, something he hasn't done a whole lot. He's one of the surest tacklers on this team. So I think if you can find a way to get him as a free rusher on Josh Allen, you're going to be able to force either some mistakes or get some sacks from Nick Bolton in an area that he hasn't done a whole lot this year. He's done more of tackles for loss in the run game, but I think you might be able to get him in some one-on-one situations with Josh Allen, and that's where you're going to see the dynamics come in. I appreciate you for the other question again, Jaden. What separates Josh Allen from Patrick Mahomes? So the biggest thing is mentally. Patrick Mahomes is, in my opinion, I've watched both of them. He's light years ahead of where Josh Allen is right now mentally because of everything that he's seen this year with the two high safeties and seeing a bunch of different defensive looks. Mahomes has pretty much seen everything now in his career from a defensive standpoint. And it's because teams have tried to figure out how to stop him. They finally figured out just keep everything in front of him, and eventually he would get frustrated with that. And now we've seen Patrick start to stop getting so frustrated and start to take the things underneath and really let his playmakers shine and get the ball into some players that maybe he didn't expect to have good seasons. And the trust factor that wasn't there now is, especially with Byron Pringle. I think you're seeing it more with Demarcus Robinson, even more still with McCole Hardman. I think it's all growing there, which is great to see. And really, Josh Allen is a completely different unicorn type player when it comes to running the football. Like I mentioned, he's a very different, more different than a lot of things we've seen this millennia in terms of rushing quarterback. Big. He's much faster than he ran in the 40. He's running a 4.8 40, but he's not just fast. He's quick in terms of he's not a twitchy guy, but he can make a lot of guys miss. And when he's got such explosion in his steps, the way that he changes direction, it's a very explosive manner, and he can make guys miss and then accelerate. So that's what separates him from Patrick in that regard, and what Patrick separates himself from the quarterback aspect. Thank you for the question, Jeremy. I believe Honey Badger's playing Sunday night dictates his extension. I don't think you're wrong in that assumption. I think that there is a lot of eyes on Tyrann Mathieu to have a productive game in the postseason, or two to really allow him to get that extension he's looking for. I think he's thinking the same thing. So I'm excited to see what he does. Yes, Cody, if you're just joining us now, Willie Gay will play in this game. Andy Reid came out earlier today and he confirmed that Willie Gay will play, and pretty much no bones about it. That's it. He just no more questions about it. Thank you, Scott. If D-Rob has a good game, does he get signed in the offseason? What do you expect from him this weekend? So I personally believe that Demarcus Robinson is not going to be back next year, but Andy Reid's the kind of guy that you really don't ever know what he's going to do with a player like that. He loves Demarcus Robinson, but the last 2 years he signed 1-year deals because he didn't have a market. Okay, I'm just interested to see what he ends up doing, what he ends up bringing to the table in the postseason. If he keeps having impact like he did against the Steelers, it's not out of the question. He knows the playbook. The trust is there. So I wouldn't be totally surprised. I personally don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. All right, I'm going to answer maybe one or two more questions, and then I'm going to get into my last big points here. All right, thank you. Thank you, Priest. Do you think the Chiefs will play more man or zone? I think they're going to play more man like they always do. They play their man coverage on the outside, and they let their corners in situations that they're not necessarily designed for. And I would like to see them play more zone, but I think that you're going to end up seeing more blitzes than you probably expect against a Josh Allen, which implies more man coverage from Spags' side. I would like to see them drop into some more coverages and give him some things he's not exactly expecting, and which would allow them to maybe get some more pressure on him. It's funny enough, the Chiefs are like top 5 in pressure rate this year, but they're like almost dead last in total sacks on the season. It's a very, very weird thing, but that tells you that teams know that the blitz is coming. They get pressure and they get the ball out quickly. So that's something that Josh Allen's going to have to manage too, is not hold on to that football. Thank you for the question one more time. All right, Bono, Fenton extension, maybe he'll be cheap. He's probably not going to have a very big market, so I don't. It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. As I do think that he's brings some value to this team, being able to play on the outside and the inside. So yeah, I don't definitely don't rule that out at all. Thank you for the question again. Thank you, Oregon Fishing. Hey Dan, how much do you factor in the fact that playoff Chiefs are different than regular season, and Arrowhead could be a deciding factor? Yeah, it's a big thing. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs team going back to back Super Bowls, it's bred them to be different, to come out differently in the postseason, to know what it takes to get through the regular season well enough, put yourself in a position to, actually be there, and then you find that switch and you turn it on in the postseason. I think that they needed a little bit of a kick in the wild card round to get that switch flipped, and TJ Watt gave it to them. So yeah, I think there's a pretty big difference in the team that plays in the postseason between the team that plays in the regular season. One more question, and then I'm going to get to my last couple points here. Thank you for the question, Trish. Do you also appreciate the screen game making and comeback? The offensive line blocking is amazing. Yeah, it's been incredible, honestly. Like, I do think that the gelling of the offensive line, getting Andrew Wiley in there, they've had some shuffling at right tackle for the majority of the season. Having Wiley in there established as the guy now really has helped them get everything under them. You saw it against the Steelers. Like, they were after Patrick. They wanted to get to Mahomes. You can use that against aggressive teams that want to rush the passer, and you saw it. They just did everything right. They had some more exotic screen looks that got maybe the running back in a different position, not exactly where he's just releasing to the flat, but a little bit further upfield, and allowed the offensive lineman to actually get out in front of him and take a little bit more time, but it confused some of the defensive linemen. They did a good job of engaging their blocks and not making it so easy to find. So yeah, I'm very appreciative of what they did with the offensive line and finding a ways to get the screen game involved. All right, everybody. So this is the spectacle. It's the Sunday Night Football game. This is 2 weeks in a row now the Chiefs have had the Sunday Night Football game. We all know that that's who everyone wants to see on national TV. This is pitting Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen, the two best big cannon quarterbacks in the NFL, okay? Some of the highest explosion offenses. But for both of these teams, the defenses are going to be how you win this game. You have to find ways to get that turnover. You have to find ways to limit each quarterback, okay? The Bills, like I said, they're an excellent, well-coached unit. Sean McDermott runs that ship very tightly. He knows exactly what he's doing. They've extremely well-coached players. They've had their corners step up for Trey White, who hasn't played. He's been on the IR, and they've really felt almost no. I won't say almost no, because losing a all-pro type of player like that always gives you a little bit of come down off of that. But there's almost been no real thing or anything felt from that loss, and that's been incredible. So this defense in Kansas City will be the determining factor. The Chiefs and the Bills are going to put points up, okay? I expect this to be high scoring, not far off from where Jayden had it earlier in the game, or earlier in this stream, but this for me comes down to two guys, and they're in the middle of this defensive line. It's Chris Jones and Jarran Reed. You brought Jarran Reed into this defense to bring pass rush and run stopping ability. He has to show that in this game. You want that extension in Kansas City? Okay. You go ahead. You come in. You stop the run. You get to Josh Allen in the backfield a little bit, and you start to make him move off a spot. Allow him to flow to your defensive linemen and to your defensive ends, Melvin Ingram and Frank Clark. Chris Jones, we know he didn't play in this game in the regular season. He was a factor last postseason. He's going to be a factor this postseason. But the duo inside, because I do believe the Chiefs will have a pretty decent job of doing their contain and making sure Allen can't always just get outside. I think the defensive ends will be okay with contain. Jarran Reed, Chris Jones, this is the time, okay? Ben Roethlisberger got the ball out quickly, so you can get to see exactly how Chris Jones dominated that game, but he was dominating that offensive line. He can do the same to this Bills offensive line. We saw him do it last year. I think we're going to see it again, and this is it. This is it. Get him to throw that ball a little bit early, get in his face, make him feel your presence as a defensive line, as a unit. And I do think we're going to see a little bit of Willie Gay being a QB, a spy on Josh Allen because of the athleticism he brings and just having that presence in the middle of the field. Like I feel like we're going to see it. When he said he had something different, he doesn't do spy a whole lot. I think Willie Gay is that guy that can do that, bring a level of athleticism and speed at the linebacker position to get to Josh Allen. All right, now here we go. Here's my prediction, everybody. This is where everything happens, okay? What's this score going to be? How is this all going to come down, okay? Like, I have so much respect for the Buffalo Bills defense, or this Buffalo Bills team. They're excellent. I love a lot of things about what they do offensively, their ability to realize that they were missing the run game. They've gone back to that, and they've been able to make Josh Allen be a part of it. Their most dynamic rusher be a part of that. Committing to one guy, Devin Singletary, who's had a much better second half of the season. But for me, when I watch them play those high ceiling games, something happens after, and they just can't seem to replicate it 2 games in a row. I think we're going to see L'Jarius Sneed find a way to get an interception in this game. I think you're going to find explosive plays on offense. I think we're gonna see this return of the explosive plays that we saw against the Steelers. They're gonna find ways to attack those corners like they did against Pittsburgh. I have the Chiefs winning this game 42-38. That's my prediction. I think it's going to take 42 points to beat the Buffalo Bills. They're going to put points up this year, and it's not going to be a fourth quarter comeback where the Chiefs were up 35-9 and then they come in. I think it's going to be a back and forth. But at the end of the day, I think that L'Jarius Sneed finds a way to pick Josh Allen in the second half of this game. The Chiefs find a way to get that pass rush going. And at the end of the day, I think Patrick Mahomes wins this game because of the mental side. And I think Josh Allen is there. I think he's there, okay? He's getting there. I think this is going to be the matchup that we look forward to every single year. The big high-scoring affair. And this is going to be a classic. I think this is going to really be a classic. I wish it was the AFC Championship game. I really do. But at the end of the day, Chiefs 42, Bills 38. It's going to be a ton of fun, and I'm already stressed a little bit about it, like just talking about it. But I do think Sunday is going to be a very, very important game. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight on this Friday. 229 of you in here. That's incredible. I appreciate the support. This game is going to be a lot of fun. All of you that are ending up going to this game, I'm very envious of you. I'm jealous because, like I said, this is pretty much the AFC Championship game. But look forward to sitting down at home with my family, watching this game. I hope all of you enjoy this game. No matter what happens, Brian and I will have a post-game review for you. That will definitely be happening. And I understand if it ends up going the opposite direction, you don't want to join, but we would appreciate your guys' support in that circumstance. So everybody have an absolutely great night. Please support the Chiefs. With Red Friday, guys, like this is what we do. Make sure you're glued to your seats on Sunday. This is going to be a game you don't want to miss. Again, thank you guys so much for your support. Have a great night.